Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Alright, so it looks like we got something interesting happening in Australia for a change. Usually it's just the slow encroachment of totalitarianism and corrupt government, like our, what was it, $300,000 machete bins, where you can surrender your machetes. Well, I'm sure all the criminals will. $300,000 for a bin, and if you look them up on eBay, I swear to God, there was some old Salvos bins on there, pretty much exactly the same design, and they were like, what, between $5 and $15? $300,000. Like, let's give them the full benefit of the doubt there and say, okay, they're renting public land, the space of the bin, and let's assume this is going to solve a problem. All the Somali Muslim gangs that are gang raping little girls and doing all the horrible shit, home invading people, chopping at people with machetes in the streets, having gang fights with other Somali gangs. Let's assume they all do the right thing and surrender their machetes. $300,000, really? So yeah, just absolutely fucking insane. But to add on top of that, in Victoria is basically this dog shit communist hellhole. This was the same place that used rubber bullets on an anti-COVID jab mandate protest. This is just people who said, no, we don't want it. We want medical autonomy. We don't want you injecting us with untested dog shit, which, with the benefit of hindsight, we can say has drastically increased excess death and cancers and heart disease and all that sort of shit. There's a Japanese study that highlights that particularly well by John Campbell, and not looking good. So you had the government on the wrong side of totalitarian crackdown of freedom of expression. At the same time, they completely ignore all these pro-Palestine marches. And can we be honest for a second? The Palestinian flag is a terrorist flag. The Palestinians elected Hamas. Hamas are a designated terrorist group. The Palestinian flag represents both the Palestinians and the Palestinian government. The Palestinian government is a designated terrorist group. Ergo, the Palestinian flag is a terrorist flag. But anyway, so that's just the state of Victoria's government and police. But that's not what I wanted to talk to you about. What I wanted to talk to you about was the shooting of 2 police officers that have seemingly approached a man over what they claim is a warrant for historic sex crimes. Now, do we know How do we know that? We know that because leftist media have leaked details on the warrant for the supposed historical sex crimes. Has the warrant been released to the rest of the media? No. We've had far left corrupt media just leaking that. That already is ringing alarm bells. They may have been attempting to use that as a pretext for disarming him, because this is a gun owner, apparently has a homemade shotgun and a couple of rifles and stuff like that. Anyway, allegedly they rocked up in order to execute this warrant. 2 of them got killed. This is sounding a lot like a Ruby Ridge sort of situation to me. So if we're just going to take Victoria's government and police at their word, which I strongly suggest no one ever fucking does. These are the same people that trampled old ladies with fucking police horses. These are the same people that used rubber bullets on grannies at the war memorial over not wanting to be injected with a vaccine, over wanting their own medical autonomy. But what about the shooter? So just because the Victoria Police and Victoria government are absolutely fucked and corrupt and dogshit, it doesn't necessarily mean that they weren't executing a valid warrant on a dude. Well, what do we know about this dude apart from his, well, if you believe the far left media, alleged sex crimes warrant? So alleged historic sex crimes. Well, we know he's what's his name, Desi Friedman or something like that. He is self-proclaimed sovereign citizen. He's part of the anti-government movement. If you're part of an anti-government movement in Victoria, that just makes you sane. They claim he promotes conspiracy theories. Which conspiracy theories? According to the bloody Japanese study on, COVID injuries and excess death. But I digress. He falsely believes individuals are not subject to Australia's laws, courts, or police authority. If the police authority are arresting you for speech or the right to self-defense or the right to bear arms, he sounds like a pretty sensible human to me. And they also, this particular sovereign citizen SovCit movement rejects things like taxation, license, and warrants, which is like fair enough. You would need a good excuse for a warrant. Like, okay, let's say you murdered somebody, they got you on video, or they have a witness that identifies you, or you rob someone, or you assault someone, or something like that, and they get a warrant, they go through the proper channels. They want to search your house for a murder or assault weapon or whatever. Well, yeah, fair enough. But if they're doing it over weirdly historical sex crimes and they use that as a warrant, like, why now? Like, that's got to be the thing, right? And wouldn't it have been easy to, like, snatch him when he went somewhere else? Like, sort of set up a sting, rather than, go to his own property and publicly disarm him. Like, it doesn't seem like a smart idea, especially if this guy's like part of some fringe militia who then kills 2 of your police officers who are enforcing your very likely shitty totalitarian law. As to taxes, Australia's government has resided over the largest fall in living standards across the developed world. I asked AI to estimate the amount of money that the Australian government has lost just in Albanese's 2 terms, just basically since COVID, and it said $400 billion it has lost. Why would you want to pay taxes to that obviously corrupt, retarded entity? That's before you get into the sexual assaults and rapes and gang rapes it is inflicting by importing the third world into Australia. And, obviously, dog shit cultures along with that third world Islamic. That's before you get into all the taxes being used to, fund $1 million LGBTQ marches across bridges that the right wing is forced to pay taxes for but doesn't agree with. Or let's say, for example, the Palestine marches that went over Sydney Bridge and then went over Brisbane Bridge. Both of those would have cost millions of dollars. And as before, I'm assuming a lot of people on the right wing think like I do, the Palestinian flag represents a terrorist government in Hamas. But, you know, okay, yeah, let's say, no, the taxes are used for bipartisan things. They're not used for incredibly partisan, stupid things that, you know, give money to terrorists and that sort of shit. Licenses and warrants, well, let's say they're good in theory, but if they're coming from a fucking corrupt government that wants to starve you, forcefully inject you with things with jab mandates, things like that, put you in camps if you refuse, you know, general, you know, horrible totalitarian shit, wants to inflict, you know, migrant rapes on you and then rob you of your ability to have self-defense or the ability to conceal carry a gun. Okay, those things coming from that corrupt government, yeah, they can get fucked too, quite frankly. And quite frankly, I'm of the opinion that if you're a police officer enforcing any of these dogshit laws that we haven't consented to, that conflict with our, you know, human rights, the right to self-defense, the right to bear arms, the right to free speech, the right to free expression, all that sort of thing, and you're coming there under false, you know, pretenses, corrupt warrant, and attempting to strip those rights, it is self-defense if what happens. It appears what happened, and 2 cops got killed, 1 got wounded, and our hero managed to get away. But let's have a look at Freeman's other history, shall we? Allegedly he has a history of hostility towards the police. In 2020, he was arrested for minor traffic offences and reportedly called officers terrorists, thugs, and Nazis. Well, if you're knocking on the door with the intent of disarming people, Nazis did that. If they're knocking on your door to take you off to a prison or a camp because you refused let's say a medical procedure that could adversely affect your health, it looks very Nazi. Like just common sense things, right? Like the fact that they wanted to put people in camps, I mean, only a couple of different types of people try to put people in camps, let's be honest. He then tried and failed to privately prosecute Dan Andrews for treason and fraud. And then he got arrested. Yeah, well, Dan Andrews, in my opinion, is fucking guilty of both of those charges. He fucking bankrupted Victoria while assaulting people that were protesting against a mandatory medical procedure, which, even saying that's pretty, you know, fucking insane. That's quite out there that a government would have the balls to do that, and then to respond so violently with rubber bullets and horses at a protest of that. And ultimately, all those responses to the protests and all the security crackdowns and everything ultimately bankrupted Victoria, so they needed to raise taxes. That looks a lot like fraud. That looks a lot like treason against Australia to me. I kind of agree with this guy at this point. Yada yada yada. It turns out that he was legally licensed for all of his firearms. And it turns out he was sort of trying to do like a militia type thing, like a commune militia type deal, like Ruby Ridge and Waco, like those sorts of deals. Regardless, you will not see any of the government or anyone taking any responsibility or fault with the situation. If it turns out, and this will be the crux of the whole thing, that this warrant for historical sex crimes was bullshit, and quite frankly, it probably seems to be bullshit, especially given how it leaked, but the warrant itself hasn't leaked, and our old mate here had no prior convictions or anything like that for sex crimes. If that was bullshit, then the police incited this entire incident, and Victoria Police and Victoria Government are completely responsible for walking their officers into a paranoid militia camp in order to attempt to disarm one of its members. And it was obviously going to escalate to violence. And if it turns out that this warrant was, completely corrupt, and it's looking that way, like, it looks very sus at this point in time, especially given that they haven't released it. If that's the case, then the police and the government are responsible for killing those officers. And they're responsible for doing it in a way that would have stripped another citizen of his gun rights. Okay, so, this whole thing's just getting ridiculous. Leftists are fucking retarded. It should be just beyond a shadow of a doubt now that individuals should have the right to self-defense. If a Somali man with a machete home invades you, you should be able to kill that motherfucker. I want even more than that. I want concealed carry, so if someone tries to assault you on the street, you can shoot that motherfucker. That's what it seems like to me. Especially if we're going to invite the third world in, if we're going to invite cow vigilantes from India, who, by the way, have formed gangs and riots and killed people over people, eating meat, eating cows and stuff like that before. Or Islamic people, if you burn a Quran, you will immediately get death threats. In Pakistan, people have been burnt alive, beaten, dragged through the streets. Men and women, by the way. It's worse in the case of women. Just not even for destroying or defacing a Quran, but for the rumours around burning or defacing a Quran. And you're going to bring them in. Statistically, we know the amount that Albanese brought in would have inflicted 160 rapes. We can interpolate that from the results from the sex crimes in the UK among their Pakistani and Afghan populations. We know that. We know Albanese inflicted possibly up to 160 sexual assaults through his policy. Then you're going to deny us the ability for self-defense, which, quite frankly, that's fucking ridiculous. Where do you get off with that? And then you're going to deny us how we would defend ourselves by banning machetes, banning knives, and not allowing us concealed carry. This whole situation wouldn't even be a problem. We're in a housing crisis as well. It just makes sense that you cut the demand for housing during a housing crisis until the housing costs get under control. But apparently no. Apparently, cutting visas and not bringing in as much demand for housing is just completely unacceptable and racist, even though it would be one of the two main ways you would solve the housing crisis. It's just a fucking nightmare. Australia is run by the most incompetent fucking people imaginable. Their rules are fucking retarded. Their rules inflict sexual assaults on people. Their rules impoverish people. Their fucking green agenda, which is just a scam as far as I'm concerned, to bring in more taxes and control supply and demand around oil and all that sort of shit, is just causing energy prices to fucking skyrocket. They're not solving that problem. They have a duty to solve that problem. Housing prices just from the demand from the mass immigration. And the thing is, we know it's a lot. We don't even know exactly how much it is because the shit around it has been censored by Australia's censors. The whole thing is fucked. It's fucking insane. The fact that we have censors in Australia and we have, well, basically every media outlet, every mainstream publicly funded media outlet is far left wing. Both of our political parties are far left wing. Like, Australia needs to be fixed seriously. And then we have these dumb cunt laws imposed on us that no one consented to. Like, old mate here in his, commune was probably minding his own business. He didn't consent to have his guns stripped from some fucking historical sex crime. Some alleged historical sex crime, right? Which, by the way, hasn't been convicted of. I don't think he get to strip guns before that. Yet the government's taken it on themselves to strip his firearms from him. I would guess that a lot of it is fucking bullshit, and a lot of it had to do with him targeting Dan Andrews with the lawsuit for fraud. And I would say that was a lot of favours in the fucking Victorian government. The whole thing, the whole thing is fucked. Australia, and these laws and shit that say, well, don't even grant you the right to self-defense. They're not easily reversed. So these things are brought in sneakily. They're brought in without our consent, and you need majorities in government to reverse them. The government is so fucking horribly corrupt that majority will be impossible. We need some sort of mechanism like a referendum for controversial laws that are extremely unpopular. Just like the Communications Act and that sort of thing in the UK. Like laws that directly allow the government to censor information. Like, that's obviously a fucking dogshit idea. No one consented to it. There should be some sort of mechanism where we don't have to rely on appointed or elected politicians to reverse that. Because there's obviously a lot of corruption there. There's a lot of corruption in the media. A lot of the media corruption drives corrupt polling, which drives corrupt popular opinion. The situation is Australia is horribly fucking corrupt, right? So we need some sort of referendum-style system where if you raise a petition, gets a certain amount of votes, which is a significant proportion of the Australian population, especially to do with the controversial dog shit law that involves communist censorship, you can get a referendum. The referendum goes to people. It doesn't go to elected representatives, which can betray their people, which has been the case many times in Australia. And referendum passes, you got to abolish the law. Because right now we're relying on elected far-left liberal fucking nutcases, and they seem to be alienating us from America in favour of China, which is the dumbest fucking thing ever, especially considering recently an AI analysis of China's population found that they may have overcounted their population by as much as 40%, which, that's insane in itself. In terms of warfare, that means China does not have a shot at all against America. China's one of these shitty Soviet nations that rely on human wave attacks. If they're going to take 100-to-1 casualties in battles against the US. If their population is only 2 times that of the US rather than the originally thought to be, 3 to 4 times, they don't have a shot at all. And the people that they have left, the critically thinking, intelligent, creative people in China, which would devise the best strategies for warfare, they're probably already dead. They were probably killed in vans long ago because they presented too much of a threat to the dumb communists in charge. Their military is probably going to get absolutely fucking railed by any free meritocratic military just because of that. If not, they'd be relying on, human wave attacks to overcome military experience and technological disadvantages. and they'd get absolutely fucking drilled. That's before you take into account US has nuke superiority, has position superiority, has Australia has nuclear submarines. The nuclear submarines would be off the coast of China. America has an advantage in carriers, it has an advantage in the quality of the carriers, has an advantage in bombers, has an advantage in, ICBMs, the whole lot. Like, that China would just get absolutely drilled. Anyone looking at it objectively could see that, and Albanese said, fuck America because of Trump, we're going to tie our economy closer to China's. Absolutely fucking insane, absolute tactical misstep for a country. Like, and it's only because of the fucking retarded liberal Trump bad sort of thing. But anyway, long story short, let's just say this whole Freeman warrant thing is dog shit. Like, to me, it's just a little too convenient that someone can bring like a alleged past sex offense or whatever, a historical sex offense claim to you. That claim can give the police a warrant to invade your home. And then you can have your firearms prohibited at that point. Like, I don't trust that there was enough evidence to produce the warrant. That the warrant hasn't been made public and that we've only got a gist that it is related to historical sex offences has come through media collusion. Like, all of Australia's media is far left wing. They have leaked not the full warrant, but only the alleged charges in the warrant. This whole thing seems very suspect to me, and it's a little convenient that a dude that tried to sue Dan Andrews was thrown out of court, likely because the courts are corrupt, because Dan Andrews did the things I mentioned before. He mass assaulted people who were, protesting, exercising their freedom of expression against a mandate that was horribly overreaching and that has been found to have adverse effects on your health and the excess death of the population. Like, there is a Japanese graph out there and it shows a real big bump between 2020 and 2023, and it remains elevated too, I'm pretty sure. There was a good John Campbell video on it. But, okay, it looks to me like big government is just trying to persecute a dude. That's what it looks like to me. They're trying to persecute him because he's an enemy of Dan Andrews. They don't want him to have guns. And they may or may not have made up historical sex crime claims against him. And the courts may be corrupt enough to let the warrant go through. Like, I have no faith in Australia's courts or Australia's police or Australia's government. Neither should anybody. Like, this whole situation seems a bit sus. It sucks that 2 police officers were just sent there and now are dead. Like, I don't know anything about the police officers. All I can say is if they are enforcing the will of a totalitarian state, I don't really have a lot of sympathy for them. If they were good people, it's a tragedy. But, again, while you're enforcing the will of a totalitarian state, yeah. Look, I don't trust the government as far as I can fucking throw them. Neither should anybody else. Like, this is the caliber of Australian courts, okay? Cardinal Pell got convicted. One of the witnesses that helped convict him died. After that, they appealed to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court let Cardinal Pell go. Not only that, a while back there was a dude who tasered like a 90-year-old granny with a walking frame in one hand and a knife in the other. She fell, she broke her hip, she died. The copper didn't get any jail time. The court appealed that, and he still didn't get any jail time. So, I mean, that's the calibre of Australia's courts. They're obviously horribly corrupt.